From Michigan State University, the Wealth Management Association, this is the Spartan Journal Podcast.
I'm Nate Jefferson.
I'm Matt Mancini.
And I'm Brian Lenzine. The most valuable company in the world, Apple, is changing their data policy to protect the privacy of their users. How crucial is this change to Facebook, Google, and news outlets? What is the true meaning behind these changes? And what will this mean for the future of the digital advertising industry?
Yeah, so this is a good topic. So what do you guys think's going on? What do you guys think's going on with Amazon, with Facebook, with Apple? How do you think this is affecting advertising right now?
So first off, for me personally, I want to start off with Apple. So what's going on with Apple? Well, on April 26th, they released their new iOS 14.5, right? And this new update brought new emojis, more voice choices for Siri, face recognition with your mask on. But most importantly, they've brought this new privacy update. And with this privacy update, it's making advertisers get permission from the users of these iPhones before they can access their information. Whereas previously, they were just able to access these users' information just like that, like it was nothing. And so advertisers are going to have a hard time getting the things that they need in order to gear their products towards specific demographics, right? And this is all made possible due to the information they're able to grab off people's phones. But now what Apple has done, they're making people tell these third-party apps that, hey, it's okay for you to get this information off my phone, or it's not okay for you to get this information off my phone. And in all actuality, it's like Apple saying at the end of the day, it's up to the people to decide. And the Facebook and Amazon, all these people that use these advertisers, they know this, but they also understand most people would not like them receiving the information off their personal devices. So in all actuality, it's kind of hurting the ad industry from that standpoint, because they know that this isn't the best option for them. So what do you guys think about this stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I really buy it. I think like Tim Cook's image that he's kind of putting out there, that he wants to give the users their choice. It doesn't really seem like it's truthful, because if you look at Apple, and maybe I'm wrong, but they're still sharing their customers' data with the Chinese government because of that 2017 law that China passed that forces Apple to do that. And so it's like, okay, that's all great. You're changing, trying to be more ethical with privacy, but are you really doing it, or are you being hypocritical?
Yeah, I agree. I think it's all just a PR stunt. It's them trying to backtrack and be like, oh yeah, we've been stealing your information for years, but now we're giving you option whether or not we're going to steal your information. So I think it's kind of just a PR stunt. And of course, Apple claims it's not a PR stunt, but that's what anybody would say in that instance. But I think it's pretty interesting. I think it's also pretty interesting how Facebook responded to it. Facebook was really, really mad about this. They were, because their whole business derives all of its money from advertising. So if the outlet that they have this advertising on just cuts out, then I don't know where you go from there.
Right, exactly. That's a great point. I've seen the most the most backlash I've seen has been from Facebook, and a lot from Google as well. But I actually wrote down a little statistic. So 63% of Facebook's earnings come from selling data, and 23% of Google's earnings come from selling data. So, I mean, just to look at those numbers, that's why there's so much backlash from these companies.
No question. And it'll be interesting to see where Q2 takes some of these companies from the standpoint of redirecting their distribution on ads, being able to hit the demographics that they want to hit, and making sure that those demographics that they're hitting are getting the ads in the most efficient manner possible. Now, Facebook's revenue is expected to decline by like 7% if a quoted 80% of iPhone users block Facebook from accessing that information. That's a lot of money. That's almost like $2 billion in earnings in this upcoming quarter, if that comes to be the case. And it's likely like that will be the case because in all actuality, like I said previously, like who really wants to give up their private information to these advertising companies?
Well, I
Right. And
mean, yeah.
sorry,
Go
Matt.
ahead, Brian. No, you go ahead.
I was just going to say another response that Facebook said was that this is hurting small businesses. So, I mean, I saw that something they released in the Washington Post was that 60% in sales, or I actually have the quote here, so I'll just read it. But it says Washington Post, Facebook came out saying Facebook's internal research has found that small businesses earn 60% less in sales when they were not able to use the kind of targeted advertising Apple aims to limit. So, I mean, that is a huge point. Does this hurt small businesses?
I absolutely think so, especially in this new digital economy that we're in right now. Most of the advertising that we're seeing right now is through social media, through search engines. Nobody's really going door to door handing out flyers or trying to get their commercial or their advertisement on a commercial. It's mostly through these social media apps, through our devices. And what Apple has done is made that process a little more harder than what it was previously. And for these small business owners that use that specific method to be able to market to their customers, it's going to be a little challenging. And I feel like it will prove to have some difficulties within the future. So, I mean, the biggest thing that I know is that entrepreneurs are problem solvers. And of course, this is an unfortunate situation for business owners, but at the end of the day, like this is what entrepreneurship is all about. It's just solving problems. So I think it's just another problem that these business owners will have to solve.
Yeah, and I personally know like how useful these advertising like methods are on Instagram and Facebook because I've actually personally used these for I did like a town hall and I also did some stuff with my fraternity and with just like one ad and spending like $50, we reached 5,000 people, which I just think is ridiculous. Like that's just one ad. And if these small businesses, they're not able to reach this audience because people are opting out of it, then like, yeah, they're going to be hurt. And it's very unfortunate because Facebook, that's their whole business model is based off of that. And I think it's kind of unfortunate that Apple's doing this to them.
Well, Facebook has their own product line. I think it's called like Shop or something. And basically, that is also ingrained into the Instagram app, and people are able to shop through that. And that's another method for Facebook to be able to track users' data and then be
Yeah.
able to market to them specifically. So it could hurt Apple, it could hurt Facebook, but also I see it as an opportunity for Facebook to be able to maximize the new opportunity or maximize what they created Shop for with this new implementation of the iOS update.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting that you bring up that shop part of Facebook because I read something about Amazon where they don't really care about this update because they're already collecting information from their users. So everything that they buy already, they already have this information. So the update doesn't affect them as much. And I think that just kind of propels Amazon forward even more, which could be good or bad. I mean, but it's still in general, they're like, we already have all these users' data anyways. We don't really care if Apple opts out of it.
It's crazy to the degree that they have some of the data though. Like I was reading something that said they get to see from the time that you look at the ad, how long it takes for you to be able to purchase what the ad was advertising, right? Like it can track all these things. Yeah. So like basically for your example, like say you're trying to find a host for a party or something. And thanks to these ads, thanks to them being able to access the information of these individual users' data, they're able to say, hey, we want to, you can say, hey, I want a male, I want a female, I want somebody of this race, I want somebody that's left-handed, I want somebody that plays soccer, I want somebody with, all these specific criteria. And due to this personal data being shared previously anyway, you were able to access this. And then you were able to get that specific demographic just like that and market to that catered demographic that you were looking for your business. Now things have changed. But again, like we said, with Shop, with Amazon's tracking method to see what their users are doing, like they can specifically look into these things even more. But at the same time, it just goes back to what you said previously. Small business owners don't have this, right? They don't have some of these these systems that are able to track what their customers are looking at, what their customers want, their specific data, if it's not being shared with them. And so, yes, again, it's going to cause some headaches, but at the end of the day, they'll have to find a new way around it. And that's my question to you guys. What new way around this challenge do you see small business getting around?
So that's one of the problems I think that might be arising from this. It's, they're making all this money off of our data. And if they don't make this money, are they going to start charging us to use these platforms? Like, am I going to have a monthly subscription to go onto YouTube? Because if they can't have my data, then how are they going to make this money? They might have to charge for us to use that platform. You think that's something that could possibly happen?
Yeah, I mean that's very possible. But I think one thing that's definitely going to change is, and I saw this in an article, they're going to have to make more creative advertisements. Like if you see the same advertisement 20 times in a row, how are you going to differentiate yourself? So I think differentiation, making things a lot more unique, that's going to be a lot bigger, which is something that we really haven't seen. Like we go on Snapchat and we see the same ad 15 times in a row. I don't think we're going to see that anymore. I think we're going to see a lot different ads, a lot unique products and things like that. So it's a positive of it.
I was on YouTube earlier today, and I was in another tab. I wasn't on the YouTube tab because an ad was on. I was like, I'm not watching this. Like, get out of here, right? And so the ad started, and it was a professor talking, and the professor was talking, and then he started breaking up. I'm like, damn, is my computer messed up? So what did I do? I went to YouTube to check out what was going on with the video. In all actuality, it was the ad, and the ad was these kids were on a Zoom meeting with the professor, and the connection was bad. The professor was breaking up. They're like, professor. And so like from me hearing the audio being real choppy, I thought that was my computer, and I checked it out. But I was like, damn, like that's kind of smart. Like I wasn't paying any attention to this ad until they brought up something that I was able to relate to. The fact that the connection's trash, it's buffering, and I thought that was my computer. So like for that example, like you just said, just being more creative with ads, definitely, I think that'll help these business owners get to where they want to in terms of marketing towards their specific demographic.
Yeah, but I mean, in general, honestly, these ads are kind of annoying. Like, have you guys ever seen the joke where you're trying to look up a video on how to give someone CPR and an ad pops up? Like, they're kind of annoying. So I get why people want to opt out of these, and that's kind of my question to you guys. Do you guys think more people are going to opt out than they're saying? Like they say 80% of people are going to opt out of personalized advertising. Do you think that's really accurate?
Well, I think no matter what, the ads will always be here. But the thing is, do you want it to be more specific to your needs? Like what Nate was saying, how that ad popped up on his on your laptop or whatever. So I mean, what did you guys have iPhones? What did you do when you got the notification? Do you want Twitter to track? Do you want
Facebook I honestly don't
to track?
Remember.
Yeah, I haven't even seen a notification.
Yeah,
I haven't seen a notification.
Oh, really? Oh, I've been getting them for everything.
Really? Oh, maybe I haven't gotten an update. Maybe that might.
Yeah, maybe I haven't updated my phone yet. That's probably it.
Yeah, but probably not. I probably won't share. Sometimes it's useful. Sometimes it's useful. Like you'll be on like YouTube, they'll have some ads within the YouTube webpage, right? And they'll come from Google. So like sometimes things I'll search in Google, they'll pop up in YouTube, right? And like sometimes that's beneficial. And then videos will be catered around the things that I was looking up in Google. So like that's kind of helpful. But then at the same time, it's just like how do you know that? Like I was on Google, I was not on YouTube. Like, why are you trying to help me out? Like, I appreciate it, but I don't need it. And so it's like kind of an invading type of feeling. I don't like that. Like I don't like that at all. Now some people might be more comfortable with that, And I think that would be the 20%. But I think a majority of people are probably a little uncomfortable with that.
Yeah.
Right. And another thing, it's not just ads too. I mean, if you think about Siri or Google Maps or Apple Maps, I mean, they also are tracking your location because they need to
Yeah.
know where you are, so where you're trying to be. So maybe it might be, just a percentage of your phone is limited to not tracking you, and the other percent of the other apps can track you. It might be different for everyone.
Bro, that's probably got to be the biggest pet peeve I have with Siri. I'll have my AirPods in and I'll be talking to somebody and I'll be like, see, look at that. And Siri be like, what can I help you with? I'm like, I'm not talking to you. But then it's kind of
You're like, go back to your hole.
Bro, like, it's like, bro, but she's listening. Like, she's listening for anything that sounds like it's calling her name, right? So
Yeah.
yes, she's listening for her name and she'll respond when she hears her name, but at the same time, she's still listening. Like that shit, it's kind of weird. It's just like, okay, I appreciate what you're doing, but at the same time, you can hear anything that I'm saying, and then you're listening to it. You know what I mean? And I feel
It's
like
kind
there's
of
so
creepy,
many,
yeah.
yeah, there's so many complexities to an iPhone. It's just like, do you really know everything that's going on with your phone? Like you're saying, yes, only Siri's listening, but like, could it potentially be recorded? Like, could somebody else potentially be able to listen to it? I know we talked about it last week where you can get your phone hacked just by being on a Wi-Fi that's an open network. Like, can somebody potentially hear the stuff that you're saying on the phone if like you're on the same Wi-Fi network as them, right? You know what I'm saying? Just crazy stuff like that. So I think privacy is a big, big thing in this digital economy that we're getting ourselves into. And the fact that Apple did this, I mean, regardless of their motives, at the end of the day, it does help the user because our privacy is very important, specifically when everything is so easily to be accessed.
Yeah. I mean, privacy, I think, died a long time ago. Like, it's kind of like, it's kind of sad to say, but privacy's dead. Like, even you guys were saying how your phone picks up everything. Just last night, I was watching a movie on Netflix, Rush, and one of the characters was called James Hunt. I just clicked in James in Google, and it was like Hunt. And then the other guy was Nikki Lauda. I typed in Nikki, and Lauda came up. The thing is like subconsciously, I knew it was going to do that because I'm already used to it, and it is convenient. I'm not going to lie, but it's also a bit creepy. The fact that it's listening to the movie I'm watching,
Right.
and then it's like, oh, you're going to look up these people in real life, and it's creepy, but it's useful. So, but I do think privacy has gone out the window ever since social media came out in the scene. So, but what do you guys think?
And to talk about a little bit of a more like broad problem. Do you remember the Cambridge Analytica situation in 2016?
Yeah.
For like everyone who doesn't know, Cambridge Analytica was like stealing data from Facebook to target swing voters and assist the Donald Trump's 2016 campaign. So I mean that's like another problem with this happening. Obviously they got busted, but I mean, if this continues to happen and data is just out there for everyone, something like that where it affects all of the United States, I mean, it's a huge problem.
Yeah.
And I think that's what Apple's trying to and I said it earlier, that's what Apple's trying to backtrack on. They're trying to make up for, like, even the thing with the NSA. Like, the NSA, they were collecting data from Americans for more than a decade. And and all of these big tech companies were working with them. Intel, Facebook, Samsung, Apple, like all these big tech companies were right alongside there with NSA. And I think after all these things were coming out and Cambridge Analytica and all that stuff, they're trying to backtrack. They're kind of being like, oh yeah, no, we're not like this. And I don't know if you guys also remember, there were also those congressional hearings where they were, berating all these big tech companies, being like, do you collect our data? Like, how much data do you collect? And it was kind of scary how nonchalantly these big tech CEOs were just like, yeah, we pretty much know everything about you. And it's like, okay, thanks,
Yeah.
Mark Zuckerberg.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Like your iPhone, it'll literally have a map of wherever you're at and how long it'll take for you to get back to home
Yeah,
or to
no,
work.
actually, it does. It literally knows where your home is.
Yeah.
There's a section in it where it tracks like your locations. And I did this in high school because one of my teachers, he was like, he didn't even have a Facebook. Like he was super against these big tech companies like before it was cool. And yeah, he showed that to us and he's like, yeah, it knows where your home is, it knows where your school is. Sometimes it knows where your work is. I'm like, that's weird.
And for me, I use my calendar a lot. Now I use Google Calendar just because it's more convenient for me, but the iCalendar, you can put things within your calendar, and if you go out to those events or areas at that specific time, your data will get tracked, and it'll get to a point to where, let's say you're going to class at 4, right? It's 3:30 right now, right? What the iPhone will do is it'll tell you how long it'll take for you to get to class because it understands where you're going every single time at 4, and it tracks that location. And then it tells you once that time's coming up, okay, well, it's going to take you this long to get there because you go there every day at 4. So it's just like,
I mean, that's convenient though. Like that is convenient, but it is creepy.
It's like the data knows you better than you know yourself. And that's kind of uncomfortable. That makes me uncomfortable.
Right. And for a lot of people, I think they agree it's uncomfortable. Me personally, like, I mean, I might be unique, but I don't really care that they do that because it's how convenient it is for me. But I do care about who they're sharing it with. You know, that's where I think the problem might come in. I mean, if Google keeps their data, you know, and doesn't really share it with everyone, with other countries too, then you know that's fine. But I think it's pretty convenient to have all of that, to have my phone pop up and it says, "Oh, you go to work every morning at 7:30 or 8, then here's maps to work, and or you stop at Starbucks, here's maps to that." I think that's pretty convenient.
Check this out, Brian. Let's say you're a millionaire, right? You're a new millionaire, you're Henry. So you're probably making like 200,000, but you have some money in assets. Let's say you got a $2 million house, right? And you have an iPhone, and the iPhone is tracking all your data. You have the same mindset that you have now. And you're just going from point A to B. Your information is stored on your phone. Yes, your data is stored on your phone. But what happens when somebody compromises that data? Right? They get the information that you have. They understand where you go every day at 4. They understand what time you wake up. They don't have to camp outside your house to be able to get this. They have all the information about you from your phone with just a click of a button if they know how to do that from the standpoint of getting in through certain security systems, right? From that standpoint, that makes me uncomfortable because all it takes is somebody that knows what they're doing with a hacking machine, or if they have a hacking team, to be able to compromise my information and then be able to understand what I do on a daily basis and then be able to profit for whatever means they deem necessary off that. You know what I mean? And so like from that standpoint, it's extremely convenient, yes. But that means security will have to start to be on the rise. And that's why I think last week's topic was an awesome topic because, again, as we get into this digital economy, there's so many things that are convenient within the digital world, but I think the biggest thing we need to focus on is security. Because if we have these individuals whose information can easily be accessed, then the next thing you know, things can go south very, very quickly, especially when you have information regarding individuals, specifics, like understand that people have stuff on their phones that tells them that essentially the phones know themselves better than they know themselves, right? And if somebody can have that information, they can do really malicious things with that.
If you enjoyed the discussion, please like and share the podcast on Apple and Spotify. The Spartan Journal podcast is part of Michigan State University's Wealth Management Association, a student organization whose goal is to inspire the next generation of financial advisors. The Spartan Journal news team releases a newsletter every Monday morning comprised of financial literacy and the week's market updates. Feel free to follow us on social media at msuwma and check out our website at msuwma.com.
Anything heard on the MSU WMA podcast is for educational purposes only and should not be considered as investment advice.